evening. My name is Mariclare Hannah. I'm the president of the Navajo County Bar Association, and we're pleased to present this candidate forum to help voters better choose in the August 30th primary election. Welcome to those in the audience, those viewing by TV, and welcome to the candidates. Tonight, we feature only those candidates who are in contested races for the primary race. Those who run unopposed are not here this evening. Our forum is broken into two sections. The first half features candidates running for Districts 3 and 4 of the Board of Supervisors, and the second half features candidates running for Recorder, Treasurer, and Sheriff. District 3 for the Board of Supervisors includes the communities of Holbrook, Snowflake, Taylor, Woodruff, Joe City, Shumway, Silver Lake Estates, and White Mountain Lakes. There are 4 Republican candidates vying for this spot. You will elect only one. In alphabetical order, they are Bill Elkins, David Smith, James Vance, and Jason Whiting. 2 of them are not yet here with us this evening. District 4 includes the communities of Show Low, Linden, Pinedale, Clay Springs, and Heber Overguard. There are 2 Republican candidates vying for the one spot. Again, in alphabetical order, they are Roger Owens and Steve Williams. A supervisor is the voice of the people for the geographical area he or she represents and sits on the governing body for the county. The board has final authority for approval or rejection of proposed actions as diverse as awarding a contract to a bidder for a project or hiring and firing employees. The Board of Supervisors describes itself in this way. The Board of Supervisors takes a leadership role with the other county departments and strongly encourages and models partnerships with governmental agencies and institutions, striving in a fiscally responsible manner to improve the quality of life through plan development and to increase prosperity by facilitating environmentally responsible commercial and industrial growth. Each candidate will now have 2.5 minutes to give an opening statement. The order of who speaks when has been previously determined. So, James Vance, you have 2.5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. I'm Jim Vance, and I'm running for the Navajo County Board of Supervisors, District 3. I've been married for 42 years. I have 8 children and 20 grandchildren. We're expecting our 21st in October. I have been an active member of my church all my life. I believe very strongly. I love this country. I love the principles that this country has been founded on, and I love the Constitution. I served in the Army, the U.S. Army, as a helicopter pilot. I worked for the United Nations in Croatia. I also worked for the Department of State in Iraq for 4 years. And through this experience, I've seen governments at their worst. And seeing these abuses has made me realize that individual involvement in government is not only a right, but a duty. And I take this responsibility seriously. I have come to realize that everyday Americans, just like you and me, can and do make a difference every day, even right here in Navajo County. Thank you.
Thank you. Also running for District 3, we have Jason Whiting, please.
Good to see other people get nervous, not just us. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for putting this together and the opportunity to be able to come and to speak with the folks here in the audience today, as well as those that will be watching on TV. I first want to thank Mr. Vance for his service to our country and for his desire to serve the people in District 3. My name is Jason Whiting. I'm the current District 3 Supervisor, and I'm Chairman of the Board of Supervisors. A little history, the Whitings have been in this area for well over 5 generations. The Whitings, the Heaps, the Stradlings, the Gibbons, these are some of the family names that I bear. I think my kids legally are going to have to go out of the area to date as a result of all the family relationships that are here. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm one of the few that's been able to come home. And in 2005, I was able to bring my family back home and live in this area. And from the time I was a young child, I was taught to be involved in the community in which you live in. We kind of have to do that in rural America. We have to get involved and come off the bench in order for rural America to be great. And so I looked for an opportunity to serve, and I ran to be on the Chamber Board of Commerce over in the Snowflake-Taylor area, was elected to be on the Chamber Board, and served there for a number of years, 2 years as president. And I had a unique opportunity to get to know the businesses in that area, to understand their strengths, their weaknesses, the things that worked for them and the things that didn't. After learning more about those businesses and working alongside with them, I went on to serve on the Snowflake Town Council. There I had an opportunity to take that information and try to better serve those businesses. From that time, after serving there for about 6 years, I served as vice mayor for 2 and was running to be the mayor. Senator Allen stepped down from her office as supervisor, and I had a number of people ask me to turn my name in. I was a little concerned about doing it, to be quite honest. Didn't know if I'd have the time, but after a lot of prayer and thought, I decided to turn my name in. And after going through a process that a number of us went through, I was selected by the existing Board of Supervisors as the candidate unanimously they thought would be best. And I'm not taking that lightly. I've worked amongst many of you. I've served in your communities, been a part of your communities, and been a part of key issues that we faced over the last couple of years. I appreciate the opportunity to run and look to serve you. I understand the meaning of being a public servant and appreciate this opportunity this evening, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving now to the District 4 candidates, we have Roger Owens.
Thank you. My name is Roger Owens, and I'm a candidate for the Board of Supervisors, District 4. I'm running for this seat in order to preserve our heritage of this area and to enable our residents to improve their quality of life. I have a platform of limited and efficient government, protect Navajo County values, and expand opportunities for Navajo County. Benjamin Franklin said there's only 2 things that are certain in this life, and that's death and taxes. I would hope to change that just a bit so taxes aren't quite as inevitable as Benjamin thought they were. And by saying that, I think that we can lower our taxes or keep our tax rates steady rather than raising them by having an efficient government. And as an example, I'll give you the example of the Hebrew River Guard Fire Board, where I've served since 2002. Our tax rate is $1.48 in Hebrew River Guard. We have a brand new station, all new equipment, full-time department, and our tax rate, as I said, is $1.48, which is significantly less than any other department in the county that has a full-time department. We are completely debt-free, and I hold this up as an example of the example I'll have as a supervisor. We can have an efficient government and a competent government, but we do not have to have high taxes. And this philosophy will work in Navajo County just as well as it works for Hebrew River Guard Fire. The other plank of my platform is expand opportunities for Navajo County. According to the Department of Labor, the unemployment rate in Navajo County in May of 2016 was 8.1%, while the statewide average was 5.8%. That's a 28% difference. That's not acceptable. We have to have jobs in our area. Many people that grew up here and have their families and want to live here are having to move away because there simply aren't jobs for them to have. And we have to find a way to get business and commerce here so our people can stay here and work here and enjoy a quality of life. As the Board of Supervisor, I will work diligently to attract businesses to our area, to encourage them to relocate here, to expand here, to operate here. Anything I can do to get businesses here, because I think that's our #1 priority in our county. The other part of it is resisting federal overreach and governmental overreach in our government.
I'm sorry, you're out of time. Thank you. Our final opening statement is from Steve Williams, also for District 4. Steve.
Thank you. My name is Steve Williams. I am the current supervisor for District 4. My wife Ann and I live here in Sholo. We have 4 children. Our oldest begins high school tomorrow, and our youngest begins kindergarten. So emotions are tender in the Williams home this week. There's a few things you need to understand about my views. I believe our founders of our country and our Constitution are inspired. I believe that government's primary role is to protect the liberties of its citizens. I believe in a limited and efficient government and low taxation. I believe that individually and collectively we need to turn to God and not away from God. And I believe that our country and our county and our citizens are the greatest asset that we have. I want to share with you a brief experience I've had since being on the Board of Supervisors that illustrates my philosophy for local government. Shortly after being appointed, a disabled veteran from District 4 reached out to the county. He was 4 or 5 years behind in his property taxes. He lived on a limited and fixed income, and another citizen of the county had paid those back taxes and secured a tax lien against the property. This disabled veteran, not knowing if there was anything the county could do to help, reached out to the county. We had discussions. I remember reaching out to the treasurer and getting his thoughts. A decision was reached that we would appeal to the goodness of the lien holder. And while he was not legally obligated to help this veteran, we proposed a plan, a payment plan, where this veteran could catch up on his back taxes with the lien holder. And to his credit, the lien holder agreed to it. Today, that veteran and his family are still in their home. Now, I've seen this time and time again. Challenges come up. People work together to come up with solutions, sometimes outside the box solutions. And then I've watched as county employees, citizens, and communities step up to the plate and benefit and bless those in our area. Now, the truth is we can spend our time pointing fingers of blame, or we can spend our energies working together to find solutions. And my philosophy is it's much better to find solutions and work together. That's what I've tried to do as a supervisor, and that's what I'll continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We turn now to the questions. Each candidate may ask to have the question repeated should he choose, and each candidate will answer the same question. There is no back and forth, so the candidate just answers. For this first question only, because of its importance, you'll have 1.5 minutes to respond. And this question is going to be first answered by Jason Whiting. Please tell us why or how you are qualified for this job and why you are the best choice for the voter.
That's a good question. I'll say in my race, I have really good gentlemen that are running in this race and have good reasons why they're running. But the reason why I'm the most qualified to run is, quite frankly, my experience, the relationships that I have at the local, state, and federal level, and a proven record that shows what I can and will do. I don't talk just about creating jobs. I've created jobs. I don't just talk about balancing a budget. I've balanced budgets in some of the most difficult times. And I don't talk just about thanks for the card. I don't just talk about making sure that our spending's kept low. I've kept our spending low. And I've been a leader in some of the key issues that have gone on, such as the Apache Railway. We worked hard to keep that key piece of infrastructure here in Apache County, or in Navajo County. There's 20 direct and over 100 indirect jobs that were saved as a result of that. And we've continued to be in conversations with additional businesses that are looking to come to the area as a result of it. We've been a leader, Supervisor Williams and myself, on forest issues in the area. At the beginning of the year, it looked like there would be not enough timber released, about 8,000 to 9,000 acres that would be released in timber sales, which wouldn't sustain the jobs that are existing. Through a concerted effort, working together and with some leadership, we were able to get those numbers for around 16 to 18 and save jobs that matter to people. I think my experience is why I have a number of key endorsements in my area from leaders who've stood behind me and support me.
Thank you. Also running for District 3, we'll hear from James Vance now. Please.
Okay. Well, I believe that Navajo County and its towns and municipalities are very special places, and we enjoy many freedoms, but I believe that those freedoms are being eroded. I come to this place in my life from a completely different perspective of the other candidates that are running for this office. I've looked at it from a local place. I used to look at this place as a place that I really wanted to live when I was a kid, and I couldn't understand why my dad didn't move here. We lived in Chandler, Arizona, where it's nice and warm, and there's a lot of people there now. But this is a realization of a dream that I had as a kid. But I believe that government restrictions are hampering our ability to create and maintain jobs here. The Cholla power plant is one of the cleanest and most efficient ways of creating power. And yet, we've spent millions of dollars bringing that power plant up to speed, and yet the government is going to close its doors. We're going to lose jobs. I want to work hand in hand with the state legislators to fight against an overreaching and overpowering federal government to fight the restrictions and taxes that are placed upon the businesses and families.
Thank you. We'll hear now from the candidates for District 4. Same question. Steve, you're first.
Thank you. Well, I've actually been doing the job for the last year and a half, 2 budget cycles. One thing that I hope I'm good at is finding common ground with people and building upon that for the good of the whole. Before I was ever on the Board of Supervisors, I had the chance to work with local pastors and community leaders in helping to organize the annual Show Community Fast. For those that aren't familiar with that, it works like this. During the month of November, 1 week is set aside. Citizens are invited to pick any day during that week and to fast for 1 or 2 meals. They take the money they would have spent on those meals or more, and they donate it to a common fund. 100% of those monies donated are used to help local families in need over the holidays. In the 3 years we've had that community fast, $40,000 has been raised to go to help local families in need over the holidays. And we're looking forward to the 4th annual fast coming up later this year. Now, the same principle applies in local government. As Supervisor Whiting had talked about, I'll talk about the forest. So the county has led the way in reaching out to the federal government, environmentalists, and local forest industry folks. 3 groups you wouldn't think have anything in common. But because of the county's efforts, we've been able to bring an additional $10 million of federal funds into our local forest in the last 1 to 2 years. It has created or saved 75 local jobs. And so one of the things that, like I said, I hope is that I'm good at, that is important, is learning to find common ground with people and building upon that for the good of the whole.
Thank you. And finally, we'll hear from Roger Owens.
Thank you. Having lived in Navajo County my entire life, I know the challenges that we face here. I have decades of public service experience. I've served on local boards since the 1980s. I've been on the Hebrew Overguard Fire Board. I've served on the Hebrew Overguard School District Board. I've been the president and served on the board of the Hebrew Water Company. I was instrumental in setting up the Hebrew Domestic Water Improvement District. I have lots of experience in that fashion. I've also am a businessman. I've had lots of business experience, and I think I've been a United Steelworkers Union president. I believe my civic and government experience is unequaled in this race. I also like to build bridges. I like to stand up for what's right, and I will be guided by the Constitution in all I do. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. We'll move now to questions that you have a minute to answer for each one. And again, you may ask to have the question repeated and it will not count against your response time. So this first question is going to be answered first by James Vance. Some jobs are easier to picture than others. For instance, a doctor spends his day seeing patients, a receptionist answers a phone, a retail clerk sells products in a store. Other than attending meetings every week and public meetings every 2 weeks, what does the job of supervisor entail? What part of it will be the biggest challenge for you? And how much time will you be able to devote to this job if you intend to continue with other employment? Mr. Vance.
Well, thank you. That's a good question. When I first started looking into this job, I went to the county complex, and I probably went to the wrong person. But I asked him for a job description of the Board of Supervisor. And they kind of looked at me kind of funny because apparently there isn't a job description for the County Board of Supervisors, or at least the person I asked didn't know about it. And I said, well, how do you know if he's doing his job or not? And they said, well, they have their own agendas. They all have their own projects that they go after. I believe that our founders felt that the job of an elected official is to step between them and an overpowering government, whether it be federal or any government. And it is my intent to be able to warn people of government encroachments and to
Thank you.
take care of that.
We'll hear now from Jason Whiting, same question.
It's a good question, and quite honestly, I start early in the morning and I don't finish until late at night. Being as involved as I have over the last decade in our communities, from youth sports to serving on the town council to working with the chambers of commerce and now on the board of supervisors, I feel I'm uniquely qualified to understand the heartbeat and pulse of our communities. I've seen the troubles that are there, I've seen the struggles that they have, and I've worked with our citizens to try to find ways to overcome those issues. It's not something that you get to clock in and clock out of. I receive calls at all hours and have many tasks and responsibilities, but advocating on behalf of our citizens at a state and federal level is key and important, and I do those things. I represent our board currently on legislative policy issues at the state and federal level, and so I'm warned or brought up to date on those things that are coming about and have a voice and an opinion and a stakeholder in those decisions. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Same question to Roger Owens, who's part of the District 4 candidates.
Thank you. I think maybe Jason and Steve may have an advantage on this question, since they've served previously. I, like Mr. Vance, tried to find out what a job description is for the Board of Supervisors, and there's not really one. But I think their job is to travel the county, get their finger on the pulse of the people's desires, their concerns, their wants, and take that and put it into practice to enact policies or rules or legislation that will satisfy the citizens of the county. And that's what I intend to do, is take the county forward by relying on my experience and also by asking the citizens what they desire. And from that, I will fulfill the obligation of the supervisor.
Thank you. And finally, Steve Williams, also running for District 4.
Two quick real-life examples. Several months ago, one of the senior centers in the county reached out to the county because they had a Meals on Wheels vehicle that had broken down. The county, we worked to find an old Suburban that had served its useful life for county purposes, and we were able to find a new home for that Suburban with the senior center so that homebound senior citizens could receive meals. So as a practical matter, that's one example. I talked about another with a disabled veteran that stayed in his home. I'll give you a third. The county was able to partner with other folks and groups in helping to save the Apache Railway from being shut down. As a direct result of the Apache Railway staying here, the county's been in discussions with an egg farm that would bring 300 jobs to the area. And so because of those efforts by the Board of Supervisors in the county in helping to save infrastructure, we're helping to bring jobs to the area as well. Those are some real practical examples of the difference you can make.
Thank you. Our next question is going to be answered first by Steve Williams. We're going to jump to the other end. If you think back to the turn of the century, in 1999, people were worried about Y2K and what would happen when the second millennium hit, the year 2000. Of course, 2000 came and went without very many Y2K issues at all, despite all that worry. But the very next year, we had 9/11, and so much changed so quickly. My point is that part of life is coping with unknown futures. In your role as supervisor, if elected, do you have any particular vision or strategy or ideas for the county to face the future? Are there changes that you feel are needed, and why? please.
Great question. One of the biggest challenges we have in the county is we need more good paying jobs. And I've talked a little bit about keeping infrastructure in place, keeping low taxes. We need healthy forests. We were just reminded of this with the Cedar Creek fire. One of the great things that happened in the Cedar Creek fire, though, if you remember, is that the communities and different districts and organizations came together. From the White Mountain Apache tribe to Pine Top Lakeside to Show Low to the county to the fire districts. The reason we were able to work so well together is because we already had good relationships. And so whatever challenges come our way, it is key that in these rural communities we have good relationships. We've got to have people that can build on common ground for the good of the whole.
Thank you. We'll move now to Roger Owens.
Would you read the question again, please?
Absolutely. If you think back to the turn of the century, in 1999, people were worried about Y2K and what would happen when the second millennium hit the year 2000. Of course, 2000 came and went without very many Y2K issues despite all the worry. But the very next year, we had 9/11, and so much changed so quickly. My point is that part of life is coping with the unknown future. In your role as supervisor, if elected, do you have any particular vision or strategy or ideas for the county to face the future? Are there changes that you feel are needed and why?
I would say that, as you say, life is unpredictable, as well as Y2K and 911. We had in Hebrew Guard, we had the Rodeo Chetasky fire in 2002, which destroyed our community in some places. And I think a change that we need is in our forest management. We need to have a proactive rather than a reactive stance on that. We need to work with our government, with the Forest Restoration Initiative to get that going, because that is a definite need in our area. We also, as Steve said, we need to learn to work together to accomplish the common good. I think my experience working on boards for the last 20 years will enable me to do that in a suitable manner. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Jason Whiting, please.
Thank you. I think this is, again, another area that would be a strong suit of mine. From having served the public interest for the last 10 years in various areas, it's allowed me to be able to understand the issues, the problems, and also have been worked on solutions and finding ways forward, developing relationships with people that are outside the box thinkers and leaders and influential people, not only in our region, but throughout the state, and trying to come together to find solutions moving forward. Federal overreach has affected our area for far too long. It's affected the jobs that we've had here, and we lost a paper mill as a result of it. Over $50 million that used to rotate throughout our communities no longer does. It hurt families, it hurt people, and now we're trying to rebuild as a result of that. We've now have threats of losing the Cholla power plant over in St. John's area, losing SRP that's in that area. And we have to unite and working together on ways to overcome, just like what we've done with the Forest Service this last year. It was unique that we were able to get that amount of timber as quickly as we did to save the 75 jobs that were at stake. And we'd look to do the same moving forward.
Thank you. And finally, same question to James Vance.
Well, 1999 has passed. This is a new and different world that we live in. The government has changed. The people have changed. We've become more diverse, more divided. And I think going forward from here, we need to come together as a community, as towns, cities, and as counties. And each elected official needs to work together with the departments to bring unity into our county. You can see the disunity in cities all around us. You can see farmers going up against governments. You can see cattlemen going up against governments. You can see militias coming in to the area and causing confusion. But we need to work together as officials
Thank you.
to bring us together, be united.
Our next question is going to be directed first to Roger Owens. Allocation of limited resources, such as money, is always a problem. Every department comes to the board sincerely asking for more money, and there is only so much available. If new resources suddenly became available, money, and there were no restrictions on using them, what area of county services do you feel most needs additional resources and why?
I would say that the one that needs the most resources would be mental health. I think that's the cause of a lot of the problems in our society today is mental illness. And that's where I would direct the most amount of money, as well as to our county sheriff, because he has a big role, big job to fill, and a lot of responsibility, and a dangerous job that we all appreciate so much. And I would also do a analysis of the different departments, because right now, I don't know exactly, besides the two I mentioned, which ones that I would focus on, but I would do a analysis of them through my, I've mentioned before that in other places that I'm a trained efficiency expert, so I did for a living for a few years, and that I would use that training to decide which departments I would give the money to.
Thank you. We'll hear from Steve Williams, also running for the same district.
Well, this is the exact opposite situation of real life, because we're always faced with budget issues. So, but a couple of things, roads. There's 750 miles of roads that the county maintains. There's a lot of roads that could use improvement, so definitely roads would be on there. Infrastructure. I talked about Apache Railway, but we need to be able to both attract and support industry to the area. So you've got to have the right infrastructure in place. Broadband, when we're talking about internet and cell phone services, it would be nice to be able to partner with some of the private businesses to strengthen that. We lose that service too frequently. Public safety. We're working right now on a regional dispatch center, working with many of the communities in the area to be more efficient and provide a better service for the safety of our citizens. So that's a few.
Thank you. We'll turn now to the District 3 candidates. James Vance.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. Allocation of limited resources, such as money, is always a problem. Every department comes to the board sincerely asking for more money, and there is only so much available. If new resources suddenly became available, money, and there were no restrictions on using them, what area of county services do you feel most needs additional resources and why?
Man, wouldn't that be great to be able to have all the money that you want to do whatever you want with? I did a little research in the finances of the county, and they're not hard to find. It's online. But I found a few things there that I wasn't sure about. It appears to me that we are budgeting money, and we're not using what we are budgeted for. So that's a concern that I have. But there's a lot of issues such as infrastructure. There's overreaching government. But everybody knows that here in Navajo County, we have a tremendous drug problem in this area. And I think it is important for us to be able to train our police officers, our deputy sheriffs, and not only that, to educate our children as to the problems that drugs cause.
Thank you. And finally, we'll hear from Jason Whiting.
I got to tell you, I could have spent a lot of time preparing for all the questions you could possibly ask, but having a surplus of money was not one of them. So it's just not a reality that I've ever seen, you know, but I guess it would be a good reality should we ever face that. And the reality is the county is a charter of the state, and there are constitutional requirements that we have and responsibilities to the citizens that we represent. And I think those things that we constitutionally are required to do are those things that first should receive the money. And there are areas, as Supervisor Williams alluded to earlier, that would be of the utmost importance. Key pieces of infrastructure, for example, our roads are deteriorating faster than what we can repair them. We need to be able to repair them. We have key pieces of infrastructure, as was mentioned earlier, like bringing in utility lines or bringing in fiber one of the hurdles we have as we try and bring employers into the area or jobs is that the infrastructure doesn't match the needs that are necessary to bring those into the area. So to attract additional jobs, we would need to put some of that attention and money towards that infrastructure. Hope that helps.
Sorry, thank you. Our next question is going to be answered first by James Vance. One of the realities of living and working in rural communities is that it's inevitable that you do business with friends and acquaintances. How might or how does a supervisor avoid the appearance of impropriety when awarding bids for projects or otherwise conducting the business of the county? Is it wrong to talk with your neighbor over the fence if your neighbor is also bidding for one of the most hotly fought after contracts?
Well, that's a good question. I've got a neighbor here sitting in the audience. It would be, I would be devastated if I couldn't talk to him. He's a great mentor. He's a great guy. I don't think we should be restricted from talking to our neighbors, our friends, or anybody else. And how do we keep from showing favoritism? I think that it's a responsibility that we have to let our cities take care of themselves, our municipalities take care of themselves, our friends and neighbors take care of themselves. And we have the right to succeed, and sometimes we have the right to fail also. And it's not the government's job to decide who's going to fail and who isn't going to fail.
Thank you. It'll next be answered by Jason Whiting.
I like this question better. These are the things my mom taught me as a child, and it's doing what's right, regardless of how hard it is or who's at the table. I would agree. I like the opportunity to be able to talk to my neighbor, but I feel as a supervisor, I have a responsibility to the citizens that I represent to not allow those relationships to affect what's most prudent and what's best for the citizens as I make those decisions. And so not allowing myself to be in a situation where I'm giving information that wouldn't be given to the other bidders, where I was, quite frankly, if I stood to gain money off of it, I need to recuse myself from the bid. There are many opportunities to be able to remove yourself from those types of situations. However, in a rural community, you know a lot of these people and you work with a lot of these people. And so, quite frankly, a lot of these times when these things come up, I have them work with staff and not with me directly to avoid those types of conflicts.
Thank you. We go now to Steve Williams.
Thank you. So I guess just to answer it quickly is if a supervisor stands to gain personally or his family stands to gain, then he needs to recuse himself. I can't imagine for any of the candidates this would be an issue. I don't think there's any ethical concerns for any of the candidates. One of the conversations we've had in our household with our kids stems from a conversation that Jabari Parker's father had with him. Jabari Parker plays in the NBA, and as he went away from home out of high school, his dad gave him this advice: be the same person in the dark as you are in the light. So it's not something you turn on and off. It's who you are. So hope that answers it.
Thank you. And finally, Roger Owens.
I agree with everyone here. If you or a family member is to gain, you would obviously definitely recuse yourself from that. I had an opportunity in Heber Overgaard. They're having problems with a septic and they're wanting to put one in at their new concession stand. And as a contractor, I could bid on that if I'd fully disclosed, but I chose to completely pull out, not bid on it at all, just because I didn't want there to be any appearance of impropriety there. And in my instruction as a game and fish instructor, one of the things that we taught there were ethics. And ethics are what you do when no one is watching. So I would think that we would rely on our ethics to choose to do the right thing. And if we had an opportunity to slip some side information into someone, we would not do that.
Righty, thank you. Well, while I have many, many more fun questions for all of you, we're finally at the closing statement portion. So you'll have 1 minute for your closing statements. And we'll hear first from Jason Whiting.
Perfect. Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening, and thank you for putting this all together here for us. I enjoy public service and the opportunity to serve the people in which I represent, but it's not what I do first and foremost. I actually am a business owner and a partner in a large insurance company. I don't need to do this for money. I do it for the love of the community that I have. Because of my involvement within the community, I understand some of the issues that are going on as well as some of the solutions. And I've chosen to come off the bench and represent the people in District 3, and I hope that I'll have your support moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from our other District 3 candidate, James Vance.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here. And I feel that we have a huge debt of gratitude to the men and women who have gone before us to give us such a great country, who sacrificed and worked to make this country great. We also have an obligation to our posterity who are coming behind us. We owe them the opportunity to live freely in a country that upholds the Constitution, a country that values service, and a country that is willing to sacrifice to enjoy the blessings of liberty.
Thank you. We'll hear now from Roger Owens.
There's no doubt Mr. Williams is a good man. Anybody that knows him knows that. He demonstrates that in his everyday life. He definitely knows a lot more people in Show Low than I do. But this election's not a popularity contest. It should be based on who has the qualifications and the experience and knowledge to do this job properly, who will fight for limited and efficient government, will protect our values, and will expand our opportunities in our Navajo County. And I believe that is me. And in closing, I would quote my good friend and mentor, Louis Tinney, who was a prior Navajo County Supervisor, and his statement that he was fond of, most of all, is the world is run by those who show up. I will show up to do the job as Supervisor, and I please ask that you would vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Steve Williams.
Thank you. In my view, my highest responsibility is as a husband and a father. I believe that communities are a reflection of the families within that community, and Navajo County has strong families within our community. I was humbled a year and a half ago when Lewis's son Dave Tenney, who had been serving on the Board of Supervisors for a decade, asked me to finish his term when he was appointed by Governor Ducey to a state position. And I've appreciated the strong endorsements that I've received as a result of my service over the last year and a half. Those endorsements include people like Dave Tenney, former county supervisor, Mayor Darrell Seymour, Vice Mayor John Leach from Show Low. It includes people like Ron MacArthur from the business community, CEO of Summit Healthcare. From the religious community, Pastor Steve Heckathorn, Pastor Tom Brown, and Pastor Steve Hare. Homero Vila, who's retired assistant county manager for Mount Heber Overguard. Terry and Joyce Hill from the VFW. Gary Moore from Forest Energy. I'd appreciate your vote on August 30th. Go to supervisorstevewilliams.com to learn more.
Thank you. Well, there you have it. You've just heard from candidates for District 3 and candidates for District 4. We're going to take a brief break, and after we come back, we will hear from the candidates for Recorder, Treasurer, and Sheriff. Thank you once again to these brave men. Thank you.
I'm Essie Patha Merkerson, an actor, but I'm also one of nearly 26 million Americans with diabetes.
And I'm Dr. Jeffrey Mechanic from the American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists, or ACE.
When I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I learned the importance of knowing my A1C, which is my average blood sugar level over 2 to 3 months, and I worked with Dr. Mechanic to set my A1C goal.
To help reduce the risk of serious health problems, ACE recommends many people with diabetes have an A1C of 6.5% or less. Nearly half of people with diabetes are not at this goal, and a different A1C may be right for you.
That's why I worked with Dr. Mechanic to create my personal treatment plan, including diet, exercise, and medication to help me meet my A1C goal. Sometimes your doctor may need to change your treatment plan.
I encourage everyone with type 2 diabetes to talk with their doctor to help reach their A1C goal.
Visit bloodsugarbasics.com today.
Parents, don't let teens take prescription drugs from your medication cabinet. Dispose of unwanted and expired drugs at a drug drop box near you. For locations, visit www.navajocountyaz.gov.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. My name is Harvey Lauer. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning. 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash? 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
No way. Hi. Hi. Shine, come on and let it shine. Light me up, make me feel alive. Hi. She actually said hi to you. Shine on me today.
Time to do an open. Welcome back from our break. Our forum for this segment features candidates running for the positions of sheriff, treasurer, and recorder. And again, we invited only those candidates who are in contested races. So the candidates who are running unopposed in their party are not here this evening. From left to right, we have here this evening the candidates for sheriff, Graham Harbold and Don Wilson. Then for treasurer, Debbie Kester, David Romero. And finally for recorder, Doris Clark and Laura Sanchez. Let me tell you a little bit about each of these positions. The Sheriff's Department is broken into 4 divisions: detention, support, special services, and operations. The sheriff commands all 168 people under him, which includes patrol officers, detectives, detention officers, civil officers, administrative support staff, and command staff. The Republican Party has 2 candidates running for this office, Graham Harbold and Don Wilson. Whoever wins in the August 30th primary will run against Casey Clark, who is the Democratic candidate and who is the uncontested incumbent. Moving to the treasurer's office, the position of treasurer is the banker for the county, and it oversees all the day-to-day transactions as well as the long-term investments and bonds. All this is done with a staff of 5. There are 2 candidates here this evening for the Democratic Party. In alphabetical order, they are Debbie Kester and David Romero. Whoever wins this election on August 30th will most likely be the elected candidate, since there are no candidates from any other party. And finally, the position of recorder. The position of recorder is the registrar of voters, but also oversees elections and maintains and processes public documents such as mortgages, deeds, and mining claims. There are 10 people supervised by the recorder. Here tonight are 2 candidates from the Democratic Party, and in alphabetical order, They are Doris Clark and Laura Sanchez. Whoever wins this election will most likely be the elected candidate, since again, there are no other candidates from any other party. We will now move to our opening statements. The order has been previously randomly determined. We will hear from our candidates for recorder first, and I go in alphabetical order. So Doris Clark, you have up to 2.5 minutes for your opening statement.
Okay, thank you. My name is Doris Clark, and I am a Democratic candidate for the Navajo County Recorder. I was born and raised in Indian Wells, which is a small community north of Holbrook. And my mother chose to send me away to school. So I attended school in Utah for 8 years. Graduated from Vernal, Uinta High School. And I had a great experience, had the opportunity to learn a lot from the families that I lived with. And I also went to school in Orem and Bountiful also. But my husband and I, Alfred Clark, we have 4 children. They're all grown adults. And we are currently foster parents of 2 small children. And it looks like we may be adopting them pretty soon. And also we are proud grandparents of 3 grandchildren. And I have worked in the recorder's office for 22 years under a couple of great county recorders, Jay Turley and Lorette Justman. I've learned a lot from them, and that's where basically home was. I came there to work every day for 22 years, and I learned a lot. I had the experience of working in all 3 divisions of the county recorder, which is elections, voter registration, and also in the recording. I was able to assist the ladies with some of the recording duties there. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our other candidate for recorder, Laura Sanchez.
Hello, I'm Laura Sanchez, and I'm also a Democratic contestant for this race. I am from Holbrook, Arizona. I'm a 3rd-generation Navajo County resident. I'm married to my husband, Gilbert Sanchez. We've been married for 18 years. I graduated from Holbrook High School in 1997, and I attended ITT Tech, where I got my associate's degree in web development. I have been working in the recorder's office for 9 years, and out of those 9 years, I was the chief deputy. I was appointed 5 years ago as the chief deputy. 4 years has been as the chief deputy, and 1 year as the recorder when Lorette Justman retired. The Board of Supervisors appointed me on July 1st of 2015 last year. And since I've been in the office, I have been working to see how I can improve things. And, you know, I love what I do, so I've overseen the daily management of that office for all these years. I've been there for the 5 years. I've helped maintain the budget, and I've been trying to be innovative to see how we can make things easier for everyone in Navajo County.
Great, thank you. We're now moving to the position of treasurer, and in alphabetical order. So Debbie Kester, please.
Hi, my name is Debbie Adair Kester, and I am your current treasurer. I was appointed by the Board of Supervisors when Manny Hernandez retired. I am a lifelong resident of Navajo County. My ancestors were some of the original settlers in the area. The town of Adair was founded by relatives, and that town now, though, sits underneath or beneath Full Hollow Lake. I am married to Earl Kester. He's known as the VW guy on the mountain here. We have 6 adult children and 11 grandchildren. I have 31 years experience, service with the Navajo County. I started in the recorder's office where I was a clerk and advanced to the chief deputy recorder. After serving as the chief deputy recorder, I ventured out into the private sector and worked for 2 title companies for 10 years. I then went back to the county, accepting a position with the assessor's office, where I gained knowledge on the assessment processes. I was the chief deputy treasurer before being appointed by the Board of Supervisors. I have only been in office a short amount of time, but I had a great mentor in Manny Hernandez, and I plan on continuing his customer service and his prudent investing policies for the county. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from the other contestant for Treasurer David Romero.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the chambers for putting this forum on tonight, and to the public that has showed to the forum so that we can speak. It's always enlightening to see the public show to forums and meetings that care about local government. And because it does, the public does make a huge impact on what happens within these offices. To give you a little bit of background about myself, my name is David Romero, and I grew up in St. John's. I lived there for 18 years, and then I ventured out for the last 10. I am currently the deputy treasurer for Apache County. I reside here in Show Low. I've been working for Apache County for the last 3 years, and I have a great mentor in the treasurer for Apache County, and have been challenged with a lot of opportunity within that office from the past of what's happened within that county. I have very large family roots throughout the White Mountains, a large portion within St. John's, Show Low, and Snowflake. Actually tonight, as soon as I leave the forum, we have a very large reunion that's happening in Greer. So I have a very strong policy on ensuring that the treasurer's office is an office that will secure money, be accountable for the revenue that comes through the county, ensure that cash handling procedures are in place to ensure there's no fraudulent activity for the county. And then the largest portion that I believe I can bring to the table for Navajo County is ensuring the safety of the investments that the county has, and being able to create interest earnings and give back to your local entities like your water districts, your fire districts, and primarily your school districts. We have to ensure that we protect, serve, and invest into our future. Thank you.
Thank you. We move now to our candidates for sheriff, and we'll go in alphabetical order again. So Graham Harwold.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here as well and for giving us this opportunity. I am Graham Harwold. I am running for Navajo County Sheriff's Office. I'm a veteran. I'm a cop. I'm a law enforcement officer. Worked for Pinal County Sheriff's Office and also for Navajo County Sheriff's Office. I resigned at the end of February because I was approached by several deputies, several sergeants, several citizens, to include firefighters, that asked and said, hey, we need a change. We believe in your ideals and your take on community, and we love what you have to say about education and getting law enforcement back into our schools, not only for protection, but for mentorship. I truly believe we folks before us stated that we do have a drug problem. We do have a drug problem. I've seen it firsthand. From the roads, I've seen it firsthand. My take on that is, what I've seen is we consistently chase the same people day in and day out. If we grab our children at a young age and mentor them to becoming good citizens, giving them the ability, not parenting like I've been approached before, not parenting your children, giving you as a parent, our children the opportunity, and staff at schools the opportunity with the programs that are needed, that could be funded by the sheriff's office, that aren't being funded by the sheriff's office, to get them into our schools, our kids can benefit from them. You will hear about that this evening. I'm a strong advocate about law enforcement in schools. And in closing, I'm fighting a battle, we're fighting a battle to get community back together with society. Society is pulling our children away along with our family lives. And I truly believe that as a sheriff and my deputies, I know we can get back into our communities and assist everybody as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Our other candidate for sheriff is Dawn Wilson.
Hi, I'm Dawn Wilson, and I thank you for being here and thank you for asking me to be here. I am not a politician. I'm a single mom. I have a 16-year-old child. I've lived in Navajo County for 17 years. This is my county. I believe that leadership is a privilege, and with that, it carries the responsibility to inspire and educate others and direct them to attain the visions and the goals of the Navajo County Sheriff's Office and of Navajo County in general. I am a member of CSPOA, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. I'm also endorsed by Sheriff Richard Mack, the founder of that association. I'm a member of Oath Keepers, the AZCDL, the Arizona Citizens Defense League, and I'm a Sholo Lions Club member. I'm endorsed by Joel Alcott of the 10th Amendment Center because I am a constitutionalist. I am a Republican candidate and a Christian, and I believe that Navajo County needs a constitutional leader like me to protect, serve, uphold, and defend the rights of the citizens. Someone who's not afraid to stand up against the government overreach. I'm just so happy to be here. I'm sorry, I'm nervous, and I'm glad that I get to speak with you, and I hope that I can tell you some of the other things that I have in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who gave their beautiful opening statements. We're moving now to questions and answers. If you want any of the questions repeated, please tell me, and it won't count against your time for your answer. This first question, you will have 1.5 minutes to answer. It's the only question that will have 1.5 minutes. We're going to begin with our candidates for treasurer, and David Romero will be answering it first. Please tell us why or how you are qualified for this job and why you are the best choice for the voter.
So I spent all night thinking about this question because I knew it was going to be asked. And I wrote a lot of stuff down. But I think what it really comes down to is your qualifications for the job. And I feel that I am qualified for this job for my service that I've done for Apache County for the past 3 years, and for the service that I will do for Apache County if I'm not elected for Navajo County Treasurer. Like I said before in my previous answer to the previous question, I was faced with many challenges coming into that office. The implementation of new software, new vendors, reconciliation, a loss of $6.2 million that Apache County had through their previous terms. And so with my knowledge of the Arizona state statutes that govern the treasurer's office and my experience through conversion of data software, and in my past, I've worked for the Corporation of Home Depot. Customer service is a huge part of that office. The treasurer's office is the bank. They are the billing and collecting agency for the county, as well as the investment. With my knowledge of my past and my past experiences, I feel that I'm the best qualified for the position.
All right, thank you. And we'll move now to Debbie Kester. Same question.
Thank you. As I stated prior, I have 31 years service with the Navajo County. I have, during those 31 years, 9 years of those were spent in a supervisory capacity. I have a good established working relationship with the assessor, which is needed to create the tax bills that end up being sent out to everyone. I was mentored by Manny Hernandez, and We are prudent investors. He taught me that you want to invest safely. Liquidity is important, and the return is important. And that's the way we invest.
Thank you. We'll move now to our candidates for sheriff. Same question, and Dawn Wilson.
I have 20 plus years in law or the criminal justice system. I have 9.5 years working as either as a law enforcement officer or as a dispatcher for a local police department. I have 8 years with the City of Overland Park Municipal Court. I have approximately 8.5 years as an investigator, either with the state of Arizona or as a criminal defense investigator with the Navajo County Public Defender's Office. That investigation is equivalent to that of a detective. I also have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I have my master's degree in administration of justice and law enforcement organizations. I have 3 classes down currently in my master's of public administration. That's why I feel I'm qualified.
Righty, thank you. Same question to Graham Harbold.
Great question. Amazing education from my opponent. Amazing. She's taken the time and the effort to get that education. I've taken the time and the effort to actually work the career fields. I've spent 10 years as Army infantry. I was also, when I exited, I applied for Pinal County Sheriff's Office. I became a road deputy, patrol deputy, firearms instructor, general instructor, FTO, field training officer, and I've trained our cops that are also on the road. I've also done that here the last almost 4 years. So when it comes to the aspect of law enforcement and the need for law enforcement from the civilian side and also from the patrol side and also the jail side, I believe I am qualified for this job. But I don't have the college. I do agree with that. Thank you.
Righty, thank you. We move now to our candidates for recorder. Laura Sanchez.
I feel that I am qualified because I started out in the voter registration department. I did it the firsthand, just helping enter in stuff, learned a lot of stuff, worked my way through the rank. I am not afraid of hard work and learning what the process is, what needs to be done in this position. I'm not afraid. In the last year that I've been there, I worked my way up, and Lori Justman, took me under her wing, great mentor, learned a lot from her, made my way to be her chief deputy when Barbara Hunt retired. So I'm not afraid to show and take risks and see what we need to do to improve stuff for our citizens. I recently have changed the voting process in Navajo County and have made it easier and convenient for voters. So that way we're going out to hear, as contestants up here, what the voters want and what they need. And that is what I feel makes me qualified.
Thank you. And finally, we'll hear from Doris Clark. Same question.
Thanks. I feel like I'm qualified for this position. Otherwise, I wouldn't have worked so hard to collect signatures. I feel like I'm qualified. I don't have much college degree. I did take a class at Navajo Community College. I took, although I'm fluent in Navajo, I learned how to read and write. I took a class in semester, and I also took a class at NPC to learn more about the computers programs. I have, during the 20 plus years that I've worked in the recorder's office, I was certified election officer for the state of Arizona the whole 20 years that I was employed with the county recorder. I've gotten to know a lot of Secretary of State, different county recorders. I've worked with the tribes, White Mountain Apache tribe, the Hopi tribe, the Navajo tribe. I've had one-on-one contact with the voters as a voter outreach. I've heard their concerns, their complaints. We've heard some last night in Snowflake. And so it's, it's a continuing process. I've been out there talking to the voters, and I feel like I am qualified. And I did participate in the hiring process, interviewing process.
Thank you. Thank you. From this point on, the questions will have a 1-minute answer. And again, you may ask to have the question repeated. This next question is going to the candidates for sheriff first, and it will be answered first by Graham Herbold. Why do you want this position, and are there changes you want to accomplish, and how quickly?
Absolutely. What I want this position is to bring back community. Number one, that is number one on my agenda. How am I going to accomplish that? I have a 2- and a 5-year plan. The biggest is we need to get a grant writer on board with us, which I already have. I have teams already set in place. Are there going to be changes? Absolutely. Number one is we need to change the upper echelon of the command staff to loosen up funds that can go back to not only our dispatch. If we end up having regional dispatch, we can put that money into there so our dispatchers get paid more. That's why we have a turnaround with that. Number 2 is our retention. We need to quickly jump on our retention because that directly affects our communities because they constantly see a change. Our deputies do not know their communities, and our communities do not know our deputies. Number 3, once again, I keep pounding this education. There's $2.5 million sitting in RICO funds that need to be used. Those are community funds. They're not to be held. And that is what needs to be done.
Thank you. Dawn Wilson, same question.
And can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. Why do you want this position, and are there changes you want to accomplish, and how quickly?
I have worked in law enforcement my whole life. That's in law enforcement, it's criminal justice my whole life. And that's something that I want to continue with and retire from. And this, I'm seeing every day how our civil liberties are being taken away. And for me, this is a stepping stone that I can take charge and help protect the citizens from that happening, from that government overreach. That's one of the reasons I want this job. I want to be able to protect our citizens. I want to build a barrier between the federal government and the citizens and say, you can't come in here and do your gun control. You can't come in here and close our forests. You can't come in here and run roughshod over our citizens. But I also think, I agree with my opponent, community is important, and we need to, build those community relationships and help get the community to look at the sheriff's department in a much better light.
Thank you. We'll move now to the candidates for recorder. Doris Clark.
Thanks. I would like to help the voters of Navajo County. I think one of our greatest freedoms is the right to vote. And we have really low voter turnouts, and I would like to see if I could focus on voter education, voter awareness. There was times when we went to the high schools, registered seniors, gave them the opportunity to vote on machines. That's no longer done. I'd like to bring that back in. Kids voting, I feel like, if they learn at a young age, they will grasp that. And I think elections voting it's very important because that is where the laws and the bills are all passed and make Navajo County a better place for our citizens.
Thank you. And we'll move now to Laura Sanchez.
Why I would want to be recorder is, like my opponent has said, voter education and for the voters. Voter trust is not there anymore with local government. And that is one thing I want to instill to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure they're heard. And what I would like to do is do voter education of, yes, we have heard, we go into the high schools. One thing I would like to do is definitely get our colleges involved, get college students, let them put something in place for these kids voting so they can go in and learn the whole process. And that's something I would like to see soon. What we have had in the past, needs to be implemented and made greater.
Okay, thank you. We're moving now to our candidates for treasurer, Debbie Kester.
Frankly, I love my job, so I would like to continue with it. I have a new system that we've been testing for tax collection purposes, and I'd like to see that come to fruition. I do have ideas on some changes that can be made in the office, some task reassignments, and I would like the opportunity to continue my service.
Ready.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Romero.
That's a good question. The reason that I am seeking office for Navajo County is because I enjoyed the job. It's not something that I have to do. I have a current job that I know that I will have for the next 4 years with Apache County, but I really do enjoy the job, and I feel like I can do a great service to Navajo County and its citizens to provide great customer service for that office. As my opponent has just spoken, Navajo County is faced with a software conversion, and because it's an unsupported software at this point that Navajo County developed in the past, and I have already been through a software conversion with Apache County, and I feel that with that experience, I can make that come very clean, and I do know that with the current assessor in Navajo County, that it is important to ensure that those softwares are compatible. So it's something that, like I said, I don't have to do, but it's something that I want to do.
Thank you. Moving now to sets of questions that won't be answered straight across by every candidate. They're targeted for each position. So don't panic if you hear a question you don't have a clue about. So we'll begin first with the recorder. And it will be answered first by Laura Sanchez. Should the state separate the functions of recording documents from elections and voter registration services? After all, those appear quite different from each other. Please comment.
You know, right now, I don't think they should. And for us as recorders, we have very small staffs, and we cross-train in our department, so they are very valuable to us in the election and the voter registration and election field. So I think for recorders, we should keep it together because it's also a learning process for them to know, you know, the whole process of everything. And they go out and educate people too. They have families, they have friends. So the word is getting out more. So I think keeping them together is a good thing. And I would support keeping them together.
Ready, thank you. Doris Clark, same question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Should the state separate the functions of recording documents from elections and voter registration? After all, those appear quite different from each other. Please comment.
You know, years ago in the recording department, we recorded a lot of documents, and things have slowed down a lot. So if it was separated, I don't know that there would be enough. I think the recording section of the recorder's office would be pretty small. You know, there wouldn't, right now, I think there's only 2 ladies that I see up in the front that take care of the recordings, taking in deeds to be recorded. I think also that it needs to be together because that's just the way the citizens of Navajo County have known it to be, and I think it just needs to stay together.
All righty, thank you. We're moving now to the treasurers, and it'll be answered first by David Romero. Should the state require that the position of treasurer only be held by someone who is an accountant? Please comment.
That's a good question. In my opinion, I don't believe that should happen. A degree comes with many qualifications and a lot of learning, but as a good elected official, the staff that you hire are really the staff that can do that job. As an accountant, you know, there's a lot of people don't understand about the treasurer's office is that it's a lot of data entry and a lot of reconciliation. So with a great senior accountant, being able to reconcile a ledger against a bank account can happen very easy. Not all accountants have the ability to manage an office, right? So there's a lot of other qualifications just besides knowing numbers and being an accountant that goes hand in hand with the treasurer's office.
Alrighty. Thank you. Debbie Kester.
I do agree with David. I don't believe that the treasurer needs to be an accountant. As he said, you hire the staff to do that, that are qualified as number people, but you need someone there that supervise and oversee the office, and I believe that's better suited for, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous.
That's right.
But I think that is not necessarily a requirement to be an accountant.
Alrighty, thank you. We'll now turn to the candidates for sheriff, and it will be answered by Don Wilson first. Should the state require only that someone currently serving as a sworn law enforcement officer be allowed to serve as sheriff?
Should they require it? I believe that, well, I know they don't at this point. I don't necessarily know that being a law enforcement officer makes you a better sheriff than somebody who's educated and experienced. That's educated through criminal justice. Sometimes I think that when you're a police officer, you get biased to certain ways that you want to do things, and that could be a conflict for becoming a sheriff. I don't know that it's necessarily a requirement. I know in Arizona that you only have to be 18 and a voter. I think you should have a little bit more qualification than being 18 years old and a voter, but I don't necessarily know that they should make it a requirement.
Thank you. Graham Harbold.
The answer is no. There isn't a need for it. If there's somebody that's willing to come into the game, but has the ability of listening to who is on the road, who is protecting the citizens, who is working in the jail systems, who know the jail systems, and also their finance people, no, if they have that ability as a leader. And that's the biggest thing for this, is being able to be that leader for that agency, for that county, because it is an elected position. So even if you are 18, you've proven yourself as a Boy Scout, you have your Eagle Scout, you are a proven leader, and you get voted in, hopefully, in my eyes, you have the ability of actually listening to the citizens and your people. It's just like the military. You have a lieutenant straight out of college that comes out to a combat field. You have a staff sergeant that's been in combat numerous times, and that lieutenant comes to him. The majority of them walk up and say, "What do we need to do?" And it happens. There are a few that get put into that position that don't want to be put in that position as infantrymen, but it happens. They adapt. Thank you.
Thank you. To the recorders again, and Doris Clark will be answering first. There's been national attention given to the problem of keeping voter rolls up to date and free of names that shouldn't be there, such as illegal aliens and people convicted of felonies, and of course, people who have died. In addition to voting eligibility, the lists are also used to summon jurors. Only adult citizens who have retained the right to vote and who have registered to vote should be on the list. How big is this problem locally, and can it be fixed? Please comment.
I don't know that it's a big problem, but it does happen. It's, in the years that I've been in the recorder's office, we have come across those issues. And as far as illegal aliens, the voting registration process has gotten a little tougher. They've got to prove that they are citizens by providing the driver's license number on the registration form, or if they don't come up with the information that's required on the form, they can submit documents with their form to verify that. So, so I don't know that really, and then as far as the felonies, we get a listing, the recorder's office gets a listing from the state of all those that have been convicted as a felon, and they are removed at that time, and they also get death
you.
certificates from the
Thank
state.
you. Laura Sanchez.
It's not a very big problem here in Navajo County. As my opponent has mentioned, we do have things set in place with the state to get notification of deaths and felons. But also in our office currently, we also have forms where we hear from the voters who let us know that people have been deceased. We ask them to fill out a form or provide us with information so we can help clean them. We also have we have a great working relationship with our clerk of the court to where they send out jury questionnaires, and they also help send that stuff over to our office to keep our rolls clean.
Alrighty, thank you. For the treasurer candidates, this will be answered first by Debbie Kester. Some say there is a redundancy between the finance department and the treasurer's office. After all, both offices handle the county's banking duties. Should one office be removed and all the duties handled by one larger office? Please comment.
I believe they should be separate for separate reasons. The finance department does reconcile 30 accounts where the money just goes in and then comes back out. The treasurer's office handles the day-to-day banking, and they take care of the notification to each of the departments that they've received deposits. They do the bank reconciliation for the county, the general fund. They handle the school district's money. I think they do need to be separate divisions.
Alrighty, thank you. Same question to David Romero.
That's a great question. It's not a question that I've ever thought about before. There is a redundancy, and the redundancy comes with the data input. So what the treasurer's office does is when they receive money into a fund for the county funds, the finance office duplicates that. So that's where the redundancy comes from. The offices play two very large different roles. The treasurer's office is a bank for the county, where the finance office is a budgetary office for the county. They do not deal specifically with the bank. They do have departments that do turn in reconciliations to them, but completely two different roles. And those roles should be kept separate. I don't feel that an elected officer should have a lot of influence over budgetary restraints on departments. A lot of politics can play into those types of roles. So to answer the question, no, they should be kept separate.
Alrighty, thank you. We turn now to the candidates for sheriff, and it will be answered first by Graham Harbold. Many people in Navajo County feel very strongly about their Second Amendment gun rights. At a recent gun show, I saw a poster that said something like this: I own guns and a backhoe. I don't need to call 911. There is a natural tension between private gun ownership and law enforcement, especially with the recent troubles. Please comment.
Well, the Second Amendment's very huge. The Constitution in general is very, very important to at least the two of us sitting up here and quite a few of our folks following us and our supporters. We're very passionate about it. Your Second Amendment is your right. I shoot a lot. I love guns. I believe that everybody should have the right to protect themselves. The Constitution clearly states you have the right to protect yourself. And as a sheriff, I fully believe not only protecting that specific right, but all of your other rights, because I'm the mediator between the folks that are claiming they're going to take them, which we currently don't have in Navajo County, but we need to have set in place the ability to negate that. And I will defend that, and I promise you that.
All righty, thank you. Don Wilson, same question.
And will you repeat the question for me?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Many people in Navajo County feel very strongly about their Second Amendment gun rights. At a recent gun show, I saw a poster that said something like this: "I own guns and a backhoe. I don't need to call 911." There is often a natural tension between private gun ownership and law enforcement, especially with the recent troubles. Please comment.
Well, yes, our Second Amendment right. The Lord gives us our rights, and the amendments protect those rights. And we do have that right to keep and bear arms, but we also have a responsibility to be responsible gun owners. And people who have guns, they really should be trained to have those weapons. And I have no problem with law-abiding citizens carrying guns, and I believe that as a sheriff, we should build our militia to help, our local militia to help, have these people, have them trained, have them there ready to help protect our rights should the federal government step in to help stand behind the sheriff and build a barrier to help. I like my guns. I'm sure you like your guns. I'd like to keep my guns. I'm sure that he'd like to keep his guns, and so I hope that we can work something out with the citizens.
So it's time to move into our closing statements. And again, you'll have 1 minute for that. And we'll hear first from Laura Sanchez, candidate for recorder.
As your recorder, I would continue to provide services that are trustworthy and convenient. I will continue to remove barriers that we have set before us and to keep moving forward. So I am dedicated and passionate about what I do, and I am in your community and your neighbors. So I would like to hear from all of you, and I would also like to serve you. So I would hope that you would continue to support me on August 30th to keep providing services to you.
Thank you. We'll hear now from Doris Clark, also a candidate for recorder.
Thank you. I would like to mention that I do have leadership and supervisory experience. As I worked in the voter outreach department, I pretty much was in charge for recruiting the new employees that would be coming on, training them, keeping their time, and just working with several different outreach workers that have come up. And I was also had the responsibility and opportunity to work with radio, newspaper, doing some of my own public service announcements on the radio. And I enjoyed working in the recorder's office, and I really enjoy being a citizen of Navajo County. It's one of the greatest counties ever, and I would like to be your next Navajo County recorder. Thank you.
Thank you. We will hear now from our candidates for treasurer. David Romero, you are first.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and put on this lovely forum, and for the citizens that have shown tonight to listen to us speak about our candidacy and our run for office. Something that I didn't get to speak a whole lot about is about my past. I worked for the Home Depot Corporation for 10 years in the leadership role. I left that company as a store manager, and I managed up to 350 employees in the last store that I ran, and we took care of about $30 million in revenue income. So I just feel that with my qualifications from my past, with the service that I do for Apache County now, that I am the best qualified candidate for the position. The candidate sitting to my right is definitely a qualified candidate as well, and I would like to have your support come August 30th.
Thank you. Debbie Kester.
Thank you. Well, as you've seen tonight, public speaking is not my forte, but I do enjoy the job. I am a working treasurer. I am there every day. I am there to help supervise and observe the office and to be there for constituents if they have questions. I I would like to maintain the quality service that we have at this time. I am wanting to implement the new system that we have. Actually, the conversion is done on that system. We're just testing that system. And I would appreciate the opportunity to continue as your county treasurer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move now to candidates for sheriff, and we'll start with Don Wilson.
The sheriff is an elected official in the county who's employed by the county but actually works for the citizens and is held accountable by the citizens. And the sheriff should be a peace officer. That's the type of person and sheriff I want to be. My opponent named off his plethora of experience, with the department. I realized I hadn't named off mine. I worked in detention. I've worked with community policing, court security, transportation, personnel and training, special patrol assignments, parades, county fairs, and I've done recruiting and promoting of the Johnson County Sheriff's Office in Johnson County, Kansas. So I do have an array of well-rounded experience to go with my qualifications, and I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. And finally, Graham Harbold.
First, thank you very much for this opportunity again. It's been a pleasure. In closing, I've been to combat. There's combat currently going on our streets. I've been to those combat situations. I've fought for your constitutional rights, not only in this country, but also in others. I know what's currently going on in our county. I've been a part of what's going on in our county. I've responded to calls for you residents and the folks and the citizens of our county. I believe in community for the whole county, not just where the voting populate is for my specific card. I am a Republican. I refuse to change my Republican Party just to gain votes or the attempt to win for Navajo County. I am here to fight for you. I've done it in the past, and I will do it again. Thank you for this opportunity.
Righty, thank you. That concludes our show this evening, featuring candidates in the contested primaries for recorder, treasurer, and sheriff. And earlier, we had the candidates for District 3 and District 4 on the Board of Supervisors. A final word about voting. So often these days, some people say that there's no point in voting because it won't matter, because we're headed for disaster anyway, and America is going down the tubes. Now, if you were a passenger in a bus speeding towards a brick wall at 70 miles per hour, would you do nothing? Would you say that it's useless? Or would you start screaming that you better turn around the bus? These candidates have stepped forward to steer the bus. Your job is to go to the polls on August 30th and in November and pick one. On behalf of the Navajo County Bar Association, thank you to the candidates who participated. Thank you to City 4 for taping and airing this. Thank you to the City of Show Low for allowing use of this facility. Thank you to Carolyn Sellers, our timekeeper. And finally, I'm Mariclare Hannah, and thank you for watching. Good evening.